Welcome all to this program on enabling IT platforms for digital transformation. Thanks for taking your time out, and we're sure that it will be beneficial this session because digital transformation, as we know that it's in the peak of inflated expectations. There is considerable or a lot of interest in terms of what it is and more importantly how to leverage digital competencies. But we are getting really specific because we are actually saying how do we leverage certain digital competencies whether across your value chain, because it could be part of your core operations, your core IT, and we will eventually have another webinar series which actually talks about how do you leverage digital competencies in your supply chain. So our focus today is going to be on leveraging certain digital competencies or be on the path of digital transformation, especially in your core IT. We have spoken to many customers and many of them have shared feedback that as part of this process, we are looking for IT vendors to actually give us certain IT platforms which will help us move towards digital transformation, which gives us speed, which gives us flexibility, and it helps us with in-memory analytic capabilities. With that as a perspective, we thought we should have the first session or webinar session in January, which talks about the enabling IT platforms for digital transformation. So our focus will be on your ERP, your SAP, your transitions to core, your transitions, and what the underlying platform can guide you on digital transformation.
Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the webinar. So, as Gopal has said, digital transformation is the basis of an IT transformation, and we're going to talk to you about how SAP and SAP HANA those transformations. What is the impact of a platform going forward? A few topics which me and Soumya together will cover today for you. We're going to take you through an SAP journey on how SAP has evolved from being an OLTP or an OLAP database kind of attached ERP products moving from there to an in-memory databases. And then we look at how IBM can help you with a reliable performing and platform to run an SAP HANA landscapes, and how we can build advantages over your platforms to drive those capabilities. Moving to the next slide. So just to take you through in terms of how SAP has been, we used to have the journey of HANA perspective started in about 2013, where we had initial set of customers looking at HANA as an analytical platform. And SAP was focused also on delivering an analytical capabilities with SAP HANA, and we were looking at when we started in terms of an SAP HANA journey. From 2015, where SAP said, no, we will look at an OLTP transaction workload also, and we will drive a real-time ERP engine on top of a database, taking a capability of an in-memory database and provide you an capability to dashboard online reports, and you don't need to do ETLs, you don't need to worry of data uploading, movement from to the other to provide you an analytical capabilities. The dashboards are available online because of an in-memory capability of SAP HANA. And that's where they moved the complete ERP suite, which is called a suite on HANA, on those databases. Forward from that, 2015 is where SAP said we're going to announce a new ERP altogether for HANA, which is built only on a HANA platform. SAP has been progressing fast on building new logistics capabilities, new finance capabilities on those HANA platforms, and that's a complete new ERP with a new licensed product which runs only on an SAP HANA platform. Now, a few interesting things what SAP has announced in the overall movement to an SAP HANA journey is like they're going to support any database apart from HANA till 2025, and that's a roadmap which they have provided to the customers to get into a journey of SAP HANA. So customers have started moving to an SAP HANA aggressively when you look at today's scenario, and when you look at the deadline for a SAP customer to move to HANA completely is about 2025. So customers have already started acting. From an what IBM and SAP together has achieved over a track record of last 40 years is a solid relationship where we use both of the technologies of SAP and IBM to deliver a sound platform to run your ERP, right? I've been the best technical partners with SAP HANA. We have been working with SAP closely on new innovations which we are doing on a hardware platform to deliver the capabilities to run your in-memory workloads very performing manner. Moving to the next slide. Of course, to do that, we need to have a big workforce in terms of who are working on the SAP solution, and this gives you a chart of how we are spread across the world and people dedicatedly working with SAP on an SAP platforms. From a HANA specific perspective, we have gone ahead and deployed COEs on HANA across the world. So when you look at the bottom of the chart, we have a COE in America, in Europe, and we have a COE in Asia, which is going to support support for the customers, to provide support for the customers on an SAP HANA platform. And of course, there's a whole force of about 30,000 plus employees who are working on SAP platforms, giving benefits across various industry verticals, various hardware innovations, and various application-driven capabilities. Moving forward, SAP also is talking about Leonardo, which is a machine learning, deep learning, artificial intelligence enabled. IBM and SAP are working together jointly on those technologies to provide customer and insights, real insights on those ERP decisions which can be accommodated into the solutions. Now, when you look at so I call it a Bible for an SAP basis guy or an SAP guy who goes and implement an ERP solution, which is called a PAM, Product Availability Matrix Guide. Now, this is a snapshot of a Product Availability Matrix Guide where we are saying, when you look at an IBM platform is also available to support all your certifications, all your HANA's ready environments, and it is endorsed by SAP completely, right? SAP has clearly indicated that they're gonna announce the new versions of SAP HANA on an x86 platform and on the Power platform at the same amount of time. Now, once I made the statement, there was only a single platform to start HANA, right? When I moved back to 2013 till 2016, right? There was only a single platform, which is called an x86, and an Intel platform to support in HANA deployments, right? When IBM came in, we enabled platform to support HANA, and this chart shows you that we have worked aggressively with SAP to enable certifications on IBM platform to support your HANA deployments. Next chart. Yeah, and this is a journey with IBM on HANA. From a platform perspective, we started working with SAP in 2014 and 15. We went into a ramp-up period, test and evaluation period, and we announced in August 2015 the SAP HANA certification for IBM platform. And from there, we have crossed a journey where we announced S4 HANA support platform, BW for HANA support. When SAP announced HANA 2, we were the first platforms to get the SAP HANA certification. Intel was the second platform which gets certified. And then we are looking at new technologies. We announced those The whole focus is to get those certifications done at the same has been driving those certifications on an x86 platform. So what this gives to a customer a benefit of saying, I am looking at a platform which SAP is also recognizing as a leader in terms of an hardware innovations, so that they are allowing those innovations to be ported on both the platforms parallelly. Moving to the next slide. Right. Now, before I get into this slide, a background of this, I have to give you about how aggressively and how effectively IBM has been able to drive a HANA on an IBM Power platform. Now, when you look at a whole worldwide deployment, we have about now 1,000 plus customers moved to HANA on Power, and we have almost shipped up across 5,000 plus systems to support SAP HANA on Power. And when I look back and map this to individual territories, when I give you an example of an India South Asia as a territory, for the last 2.5 years or less than 2.5 years, we are now almost about 80 plus customers strong in a single territory. Now that gives a capability of saying that there are large customer sets running HANA on Power now. And the beauty of those customer sets is those solutions have been implemented by my lab services teams. And these are the specific skilled services team which goes and
line unmuted
and make sure the HANAs are tuned to that perfect workload requirements so that it delivers the performance on the day one. To share with you all, for all those 1,000 plus clients, we not have a single customer who has gone and complained saying my HANA is not working properly. So that's credentials given to my lab services team, where these lab services teams are a skilled COE, supporting a COE kind of a setup where they are able to delivering an infrastructure seamless for customers, where they are able to use those infrastructures that run their ERPs on it seamlessly. Moving to next slide. Again, a few things where I want to let you read this chart, but the whole fundamental is that we are the only leading risk platforms in the world to support SAP HANA. Now, what does that risk platform gives it to the customers? It gives you reliability, it gives you availability, and it gives you the performance to run performing requiring ERP like SAP HANA. From a certification perspective, we have the largest systems shipped for 16 terabyte single HANA instances in the industry. We were born virtualized for HANA, and I'll leave it to Soumya to explain to you how virtualization helps us deliver that advantages with HANA running on IBM platforms. And least but last, relationship with an SAP to have a big names like Nestle, BMW, Adani, all those customers where we are working closely to them to deliver innovations, not platform, but we are also looking at taking those innovations to across applications and to a software stack. And going forward, it's going to be mixing the worlds of Leonardo, which is a artificial intelligence enables ERP, running on those platforms which understands how machine learning, deep learning algorithms can support you combined as a complete ERP and give you those benefits in terms of your business requirements.
Now, looking at where Rohit ended, so the question here is that, okay, we are doing a great journey as far as SAP and HANA is concerned. Now, the concern is that it comes to the basic question, like, I have so many Intel vendors to play around with. Why do I take 14th or 13th element, which is IBM risk? Now, the most important factor, and IBM has been talking this to all customers, whether it's an install base or someone who has not tried and tested IBM, is that why does architecture is important? So that how great or good your application is, if your infrastructure is not flexible, secure, performs when it needed, and has got reliability which leads to availability of the application, any great application will tend to fail. So what it means is that if you are investing on any mission critical or SAP HANA kind of an application to innovate and to drive new business initiatives. You will need an underlying platform to offer to you either by virtue of its own self or by additional help from additional partners, performance when you need it, availability so that your business is 99.9% up, and flexibility to meet to your changing needs. So with that, I will move to my next slide, which is why should you run HANA on Power? So here I go a little depth on technical, so please pardon me for that, but we will be available to take any questions, and Rohit will be coming back and talking to you one of the very first wins we had on HANA. And thanks to Rohit, he was the one who drove that engagement. We had that win even before HANA got officially announced on IBM Systems. So hold on to us for that discussion. So till the time Rohit comes back, let me quickly take you through what is required to run HANA. Now, every one of us knows here, or at least we know now, that SAP HANA is an in-memory platform. So what has SAP done is that they have taken an industry leap or a great industry difference by moving all these OLTP and OLAP applications running out of disks to inside the memory. Now, so far so good, it is great, but when you look at running an application on in-memory, there are a couple of things which might be very naive to a naked eye, but is more important to take care of, which is frequency of processor. Now it is given whether you do an in-memory or you do a disk operation, if your frequency of processor is not great, you will tend to lose clock cycles. More cache. If you have good cache on your system, what it means is that you will be able to move data in and out of your memory much faster. Higher memory bandwidth ensures that you can take a larger chunk of data inside your memory from a disk system in a shorter period of time. I/O bandwidth ensures that your pipe to drive the data between your memory and disk system is good. And the last and most importantly, scalability and processor reliability. It is most important because at the end of the day, if one of your processor goes down, your application should not be going down. And let's assume you have sized for X, and because of some peak workloads you are going to 1.5X, your quality of service should not go down. And last but not the least, the reliability aspects. Your applications should not suffer because of any inconsistency on your hardware. So when you look at all of these things, the next slide compares how does my architecture, which is IBM Power architecture, currently we are on the 8th generation of Power, how does it compare with 2 generations old and 2 generations new of Intel? So if you clearly look at that, we have best of the clocks. When you look at an average clock of Intel, it is in the range of 2.2 to 2.6. We range in the range of 3.5. We have got 4x more threads per socket. What it means is that I get 4 more workloads to run on the same processor compared to that on Intel. So for an example, if you look at any Intel processor today, and even if you take the best published benchmark, the SAPs per core will range anywhere between 2000 to 2500. On IBM, it's average in the range of around 5000. The next thing is, if you look at the cache, we have a huge amount of cache, including an L4 cache. And I'd like to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that when IBM Power 8 came into picture, it was 2014, there was no plans of having HANA on IBM systems. The discussion was probably going at the background, but IBM created a platform with a vision that I will go and embrace an application which is in memory 2 years down the line, and I should have my hardware ready to embrace it. And hence we brought the concept of L4 cache to ensure that your response times whenever you're looking or querying our data is much faster compared to going back and hitting the disk. Now the last 2 most important factors is memory and I/O bandwidth, and I will talk to you more on memory bandwidth when I come to my flexibility slide. But what it means is that I can give a fast for your queries when they're running in my memory, and I can have multiple such queries running on my memory compared to that of x86. And a better I/O bandwidth means that I can pull in data from my disk subsystem or write to my disk subsystem much faster. Now why this is important? Now SAP says that HANA is in memory, but what they don't tell you or probably you miss is every HANA transaction that you commit in memory is also written on the disk. Now, if you don't do that, memory is volatile. So if anything goes to your memory DIMM, the data will go. So you have to write to the disk. Now, if you don't have a great I/O bandwidth, you will not be able to commit your transaction to the user in real time. And hence, the better I/O bandwidth does matter. So with all these things, what you lead to is that you lead to first is performance. So as I rightly said, 4x threads, 4x memory bandwidth. So when you look at all these things, what you clearly find out there is that when you look at a HANA performance, like running a query on a HANA database running on IBM systems compared to any one of the competitive Intel systems of equal configuration, you get anywhere in the range of 40% improvement in your query performance. And if you compare from a core-to-core performance, you get around 1.8x better. Now, fortunately, HANA database is not alone a single part of your S4 HANA landscape. You will have applications and multiple SAP landscapes which will run on traditional databases. Now, when you look at them, they are still sized based on a number called SAPs. Now, when you look at the SAPs, as I rightly said a couple of minutes back, IBM Power Server offers on an average 5,000 SAPs, which is 2x better than the best published result from Intel. And unfortunately, my friends, if you go to any Intel vendor, I can bet you on that they will never give you the best clock on which they publish performance, because that's mighty expensive. So in short, what it means is that we use all these features of better frequency, memory bandwidth, IO bandwidth, larger cache to drive performance, both from your database query time, which is the HANA DDB, as well as for the application response time, which is the SAPs. With that, I will move to the next slide, which is the flexibility. Now, this is one of the secret sauce which has helped us embrace so many customers in past 2 years. Now, how does it help? Like, even you can do virtualization with VMware. But the difference is that SAP HANA, by default, on power is virtualized. Now, if you want to do that kind of virtualization, or if you want to do a virtualization of SAP HANA on Intel, the option is MDC. Now, there are certain pros and cons of MDC. I will come to them later. But first, the advantage that I get is that I give you bare metal performance with my virtualization engine, because I run my virtualization on a hypervisor. Next is that depending on which server you choose as a building block for your S4 HANA infrastructure, I can run either 4 production virtual machines, 6 production virtual machines, or to a max of 8 production virtual machines on a given server. So if you take a 2-socket server from us, which goes to 4 terabytes, I can run 4 production virtual machines on that. But there is a catch. If you want to run some of your HANA applications and some of your non-HANA SAP landscapes on that same server, I can donate one such production running scenario, and I can run 3 production virtual machines, and I can create one pool to run your multiple HANA applications as well as your non-HANA SAP landscapes. So what it means is that in a typical architecture, if you have a single HANA database and single HANA applications with HA, your 4-server scenario on an x86 environment gets consolidated to a 2-server scenario. Now, if you want to run multiple HANA databases, you can either do an MDC, or you can do a virtualization, or you can do a virtualized MDC. So I have customers in India who have done first virtualization and then on top of that MDC to run multiple HANA workloads. So from a HANA workload flexibility point of view, we have multiple options tried and tested. At least I can share my India experience with each one of you when you interact with me, and we can show you the differentiation we made to customer. Now, when you do all these things, the question that might come to your mind is that how does it affect my performance? For each of these 80 customers that we have worked on, I have their hardware check tools with me, which I can show you that if I take a virtualized scenario or a MDC scenario, how will your KPI parameters of SAP perform compared to a scenario B? So we have all those data today, and we have learned from our real-world experiences. Thanks to Rohit for leading this, but we had a good learning. The last and most important point is that now I have created a database partition and I have created an application partition. But if it is required, I can move resources from each of these partitions across each other without giving any downtime to the partitions. So what we end up doing with the flexibility approach is that we take the bare minimum necessities of power virtualization, which we have been doing for all these years for SAP and traditional banking workloads, to the HANA world. So for a customer who is an existing power user of SAP, he will find the architecture of SAP HANA running on IBM Power no different from what he is running today, other than his memory requirement goes up quite significantly. I move to the next slide, which sometimes is called the motherhood of all slide, which is called reliability. Now, if you go to any vendor, no one will say that I have inferior reliability to someone else. But what I would like to say here is that I don't want here myself to be compared against the Intel Xeon. But what I'd like to say here is that when you look at reliability aspects from IBM, we use hardware checks. That is, we use registers inside our servers, and not only at the processor level, right from the processor to the IO level, to ensure that failures are minimum, or if failures are there, corrective actions are taken, and if there are reasons for failure, those are proactively let out, known to our customers within meaningful time, so that corrective actions can be taken without bringing in downtime. For a simple example, I had one customer, he was running SAP HANA on Power database only on a single socket. It happened that one of the cores in that socket failed. His performance went from 8 cores to 7 cores, but his HANA database was still up and running. The reason is that we have something called a memory deallocation, which is first we try that workload on a separate core, and if it doesn't work, then we deallocate that failed core and distribute that workload across the remaining cores. Now, till now, x86, even with its Skylake, has not been able to do that. Now, the point is that it's not that they can't do it. Intel has given all these OEMs software checkers to do it. But the cost of doing it is so high that they will no more be called as a commodity. They will be called as most expensive platforms in the world compared to any other platform. So what in short it means is that when it comes to running a workload which needs to give you availability most of the time, a RISC platform performs far better, and we can prove it to you that a RISC platform like IBM Power running SAP HANA for you will give you better uptime for the applications compared to x86 player. So when I move to the next slide, this is a 2017 slide. So IBM for the last, I don't know, I have seen it for the last 10 years, have been winning this battle of reliability, both from a hardware point of view as well as from an operating system point of view. So during my initial years of product management, what I saw is that IBM AIX and Power used to win this battle. The only one platform that used to beat us was System Z. But with advent of Linux and IBM embracing Linux in 2015, and with the Linux reports, what we have seen is that even with Linux, IBM is still the best platform for running any Linux workload. So you clearly see here is that one side shows you like how does IBM hardware platform perform in terms of reliability compared to other platforms in the world, and how does IBM Linux platform compared to running other Intel vendors Linux platform. And as I rightly said, the only platform that beats us hands down is System Z, and the other platform which is comparable to us probably on their high-end servers is Lenovo, because the entire Lenovo X5 architecture is nothing but our modular architecture that we follow on enterprise class servers. So when you compare all these three things, and I will come to that portion at some point later, which is when I combine performance, when I combine flexibility, and when I combine reliability aspects, how do I create a solution which differentiates not only against competition, but also makes your landscapes look far more flexible, leaner, meaner, and smaller, as a result of which you see a good amount of OpEx savings. So stay with me on that. So now finally the ultimate question, so why you should move to SAP HANA on IBM systems. Now one thing is evident that by 2015 or 2025 all of us have to move to SAP HANA, we don't have a choice. Now when you have that trigger coming in, now what does IBM Systems bring on the table is that it's easier and faster to deploy, because one, we have got significant amount of performance. Next is that we follow the TDI approach where you can choose and build your infrastructure. So you can today take recently bought HP storage and marry that with an IBM server and create your own TDI. Now to make that thing happen, we have IBM Labs will come, go and deploy the solution for you, run the hardware check tool, and give you a report which you will need to submit to SAP for the go live check. Now let's assume you have, like I have customers in India who are running multiple SAP landscapes with HANA as a database. A couple of minutes back I said that to do that you need either efficient virtualization or an MDC. Now coming to the point of MDC versus virtualization, MDC is good, but the challenge with MDC is that one, when you try to patch, so MDC is nothing but a containerization of HANA databases. Now, there is a master operating system, master HANA database, and then you have multiple child HANA databases, right? If you try to patch one HANA database, all of them gets patched. So if your organization strategy is to patch supply chain, for example, every 3 months, and ECC every 12, you will end up bringing a downtime on ECC every 3 months to patch it. Next is, whenever you are backing up, you have to back each and every HANA client individually. You have to do sequentially. First ECC, then SCM, then CRM. You can't do concurrently. And third and most important factor is that if your primary system fails, the entire system which is running your multiple HANA client databases fails over to the other system. Let's assume I had a supply chain and a S4HANA running together. If for some reason my supply chain has failed and high availability kicks in for supply chain, even if you don't want it, your S4HANA also has to fail over. Now, how do we address this? What we do is that we run the supply chain on a separate virtual machine. We run the S4HANA on a separate virtual machine. Now, since I don't have this challenge of failing over, backing up, and applying patch, what we do is that we take their developments together and put them on a third virtual machine as MDC. So what I end up saving is that I end up saving resources without giving away the flexibilities and the needs of my infrastructure requirement to run my application. The third and most important point is the reliability. Now, the one point you will surely feel is that I am putting so many of my mission critical workloads on the same server. As I rightly said a couple of slides back, I have reliability aspects built right from processor to the memory, and I have proof points for that. So there is this ITIC survey, and we have been constantly getting ranked as #1, both in terms of whether running a Unix, which is our AIX on Power, or running Linux, or even our virtualization. So what it means is that you can be pretty safe when you put your HANA workloads on IBM Power compared to dispersing in multiple x86 boxes in your data center. And the last and most important thing is that when we designed the Power 8 architecture, we designed it keeping it in mind that it takes care of, now we never knew that HANA will come on IBM Power at that point of time, at least most of us never knew that. But what we designed the solution was for that tomorrow if there is an in-memory application coming in, we should be able to cater to meet to that in-memory application without doing additional checks and bounces on the whole solution. So what you will clearly see is that with the addition of more memory bandwidth, I can take more workloads on the same server or more high density workloads on the same server compared to that on Intel. Simple example, my 2-socket box today can do 4 terabytes of a single instance of HANA. While on Intel, thanks to Skylake, you can go to max of 3 terabytes, but trust me, it is mighty expensive on those platinum processors. With that, I will move to the next slide. So this is one point of debate. So I used to have this debate, and even Rohit used to have this debate with every one of our customers that, okay, I have decided to take the HANA journey. Now, shall I take the database as Appliance or a TDI? Now, the choice is yours, or the choice had been yours. Now, what has happened recently is that SAP has come with a 5th approach, or the 5th release of their sizing approach, which is called version 5. And what it clearly has shown that if you are following the TDI pattern, now the TDI pattern could be on Intel or the TDI pattern could be on our platform, you will get more flexibilities to run your workload. For example, if you have taken the version 4 approach of SAP to size your solution, for doing a 2 terabyte BW, and I'm talking the Intel world, I'll not come to the Power world right now, so that to make your life simple, you would have required 4 sockets of Intel processors. Today with TDI 5, when your implementation or your partner or you are running this, the SAP tool, For that workload, it will also give you a SAP number. Like it will say that for running a 2 terabyte BW HANA, I'm just giving an example, you need 60,000 SAPs. Now, you can size your workloads based on SAPs and reduce the number of sockets. For the same 4 socket 2 terabytes with the version 4 approach will now become 2 sockets 2 terabytes with version 5. But there is a catch. You can only do this on a TDI approach. If you want to do this in an appliance approach, unfortunately you have to stick to the old version. The only good thing you get is that from Broadwell you get an appliance on Skylake but with the same 4 processors. It does not help solve your purpose with the flexibility that SAP brings with their version 5 approach of sizing. And what you will see IBM is that right from day 0, we have always followed the TDI approach. Thanks, someone in IBM should have that farsightedness that TDI is the only thing that's going to live going forward and add value to any customer deployments. Now, coming to the traditional debate of TDI versus appliance. Now, what do you mean by appliance is that, and I believe most of you will know, or in case if you don't know, you would have heard of it, or you can go and Google it out. An appliance is that when SAP initially launched HANA as a BW platform, it was one of the novel moves in the industry. No one had in-memory, in commercial workloads. Oracle was trying their hands with timestamp, but they were not very successful. So SAP wanted to control right from the application to the hardware. Hence they decided is that I will test hardwares, different combinations, and I will certify that only. Now, 2014, when they decided that, okay, now I want to milk this HANA cow beyond BW and move it to all other SAP landscapes, which is like S4 HANA, that is Core Simple Finance, Supply Chain, CRM and all. They came with the universal dilemma is that if I take the appliance approach alone, I will be left with islands of servers running each of these landscapes in silo. Though it solves my problem as an application vendor, it doesn't solve it creates a problem to my customer for running a farm of servers. So what they said is that, okay, let's go and embrace TDI. And that's the point where IBM came into a discussion with SAP that, hey, IBM, we want to do this TDI. Now, what we figure out is that TDI is good when we virtualize, we take an external storage. It could be a hybrid combination with IBM with some other OEM, or it could be all IBM. But what I clearly see is that if I do this approach, then only I see the benefit of running the solution on TDI. And hence what we figured out is that compared to the siloed approach of describing and defining everything on day 0, if you take the approach of taking building blocks and building your own solution, not only you get more flexibility to run the solution on day 0, but also you get the advantage of modifying things later. For example, not long ago, people used to have issues like, I have taken a 512 GB of appliance, now my requirement wants me to go to 1 terabyte. There were situations, depends on different scenarios, is like that customer has to go and buy a new 1 terabyte appliance. He couldn't upgrade the 512 GB of existing appliances. So those things are taken good care by TDI, because here use an external storage, you grow your memory footprint separately on the server, you grow your storage footprint separately on the storage. The only thing you need to do here is that when you move from 512 to 1 TB, you have to run your hardware check tool and the go live test again for going live on 1 TB. For the appliance mode, it comes pre-certified. For the TDI mode, it is done on-premise. Now, SAP says that it should be done by customers. Thanks to IBM, it's our labs guys who comes and does it to you at no cost. So, if you are taking an IBM server on your premise, it's our labs who will come with these services and deliver these services to you at 0 cost. So coming to the next slide, it's a busy slide. So why power TDI or Intel appliance? The most important fact is RAS, so which is I can run multiple workloads without the fear of downtime. Second is performance. I can shrink your workloads in fewer number of servers. Virtualization, multiple workloads on a single platform. Ease of management, this is the one important piece. Now, more often than not, when you run in an appliance world, you will have a separate management interface for your HANA database appliances. And since you will virtualize your applications using VMware, you will have a vCenter to manage it. What it results is that you have two different panes of management, one for your database, one for the application. Now, some of you are intelligent enough to go and manage them together by putting another third layer on top of it, which puts this together. But at the end of the day, it adds complexity and cost of management. Now in IBM, since we are fully virtualized, we use our own management interfaces, whether it's a bare metal or virtualized, to manage the infrastructure. Last and most important is the footprint. So as I rightly said a couple of minutes back, instead of having 2 database servers in HA and 2 application servers in HA, I shrink that whole solution on 2 servers of power in HA, which reduces your footprint and effectively reduces your cost of operating that infrastructure. So the next slide shows the list of IBM certified hardware, both from server and storage point of view. Now, it is not mandatory for you to only use IBM storage. If you have an existing 3-power or even a EMC VNX 6600, you can use that along with IBM. But if you're looking at a new project of S4 HANA, and if you take the entire solution from us, we bring you the story of integration better than running it on a heterogeneous system. But it does not mean that even if you have a heterogeneous system, you can't have HANA on IBM systems. That's a myth. You can have it. And we can make it run for you. So concluding the discussion, there are the 3 key differentiators for us in the HANA world or in the SAP world. One is performance, which drives your quality of service. Second is reliability, that is when the going gets tough, your quality of service is not affected. And third is flexibility, which ensures that not only you can run multiple HANA productions on the same server, but you can mix and match your HANA as well as non-HANA on the same server without losing any performance owing to virtualization overheads. So with that, I will ask Rohit to please come back online and talk to you guys on his maiden win, which is the Vishal Mega Mart. And before he starts talking about it, let me tell you, this was one of the wins which we had even before SAP getting certified HANA on us. That was the comfort level he shared with customer and the conviction he could give to customer to move on IBM platform. Over to you, Rohit.
So maybe there was by default then.
Thanks, Soumya.
Detailed status not.
So you can read across through the slide. It's a busy slide, but the one important requirement of Vishal Mega Mart was that they were having some performance issues with their existing landscape, which was running on an HP Unix platform. And they were looking not at HANA when they were talking to us in the beginning. But when we got involved, we went into a consultancy discussion with them, and both the IT team of Vishal Mega Mart and IBM team sat together and understood even if they want to do HANA, want to do a migration, why not they look at including HANA part of that migration. That helped them drive a business value out of it, and they were able to get those approvals from the management to go ahead and proceed instead of just a hardware refresh, making it a complete transformation project, which will help them to do a digital transformation, which help them also look at improvements of various of the business processes. And those improvements came not only because of the hardware refresh, but because of an SAP HANA replacing a disk-based database versus an in-memory database. And we were able to do this with them in pieces of journey, where we divided this into 3 phases, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Phase 1 to do as-is migration. Phase 2, move them into a BW HANA platform so that they can get to know the feel and look of a HANA databases. Their team can get accustomed to a new organization, and then when they got flexible and they got happy with the performances what they were able to achieve on a BW platform, then the third phase was to do an SOH migration. And they have been live now running SOH on those systems for about 1.5+ years, and so far so good. They have a good story to tell across to the customers, and we signed them for a global customer reference agreement as well.